back again for another episode of the Griffin Report podcast. I'm your host, Griffin Della Penna. We're now here for episode 6, and we're in studio yet again. So that means another coach is here with me today. The third coach of the series and now second in his first season here at Canisius College as he took over the volleyball program this past May. Mr. Tom Hanna, thanks for joining me here
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so we'll talk now quickly before we get into a lot of your backstory. 2 regular season games left. Going into this last weekend, we'll talk about the significance of those matches as well. But overall, looking before you have your conference tournament down in Florida, what's the feeling with where you guys are at right now?
Certainly, we're sitting in 5th, feel like we could be a hair better than that. We've had some opportunities that maybe we could have managed better, but for who we are, I think where we are in our process, we're about right. I like the fact that we've put together 2 wins on the road last week and that we have 2 of the better teams in the conference, 4th and 2nd place coming up this weekend. And as I told the team even just this morning, like, hey, that's what you're going to see the rest of the way. You want to get to where we want to go, you've got to beat good teams. So having that pairing of Siena Marist this weekend, I think is good, for us to get rolling heading into the MAAC tournament.
Yeah, because you never know, too, with the seedings, what teams you're going to be playing anyway. So those could be 2 teams early on that you could be
Siena,
playing
if I had to bet right now, I think it's going to be a Siena-Canisius matchup in the 4-5 match would be, I think, what's going to happen. But we'll see.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see. But you have a very impressive coaching career. When did your love for volleyball first originally begin?
Geez, it was probably senior year of high school, and it was odd because I was a big soccer guy. Played a lot of soccer, played it poorly, but played a lot of soccer. Refereed, coached, and really thought that was the direction I wanted to go. And just kind of got turned on to with a bunch of friends of mine, and finally found somebody who would coach who actually had a boys club in New Jersey in the 80s. That wasn't a thing. And he had a team actually, as the last one he had was 1978. And now we come around 1987 and got a little bit of training, got a little bit of exposure to competing. And it was just so different from soccer. And I think there was a lot of burnout from soccer, full year round. And it was just a great opportunity. And then actually, when I went off to college, had the opportunity to start a men's club team, and they offered me the chance to work with the women's team because the head coach was part-time, and I was a freshman, and I had my name on an office. Like 2 or 3 weeks later, I had keys to the building. It was stuff that would probably never ever happen today.
Right.
So I think that senior year, freshman year of high school, where I just pivoted away from soccer. It was something new. It was exciting. It was way different, and snowballed from there.
Yeah, so that was actually going to be my next question. You go to Marist, and most of the time coaches are playing collegiately, they're playing that sport, whatever, but you're one of the different stories where you were actually coaching during your undergrad too. Like, I don't think I've ever
That's my
heard
undergraduate
that before.
degree, should read coaching. It was certainly not journalism. I was coaching with the women as the assistant. I started the men's club team, so now I'm coaching the team I'm playing on. I'm teaching guys, and I've only been playing for maybe a year and a half, 2 years at that point. But I'm trying to learn whatever I can learn and then pass it on to these guys and build a program there. And just did, it was an interesting time to basically get a 4-year internship in coaching. By doing, and it was interesting once I graduated, the things that I was kind of maybe doing instinctively or I had learned from some other coaches in the department. Okay, like that's how people do it in the real world, and I wasn't sure at that point because like I was a 19-year-old sophomore, and like our head coach had another job, and I coached 7 or 8 matches on my own. Like we're playing Seton Hall, and I'm the head coach at whatever 19 years old is just bizarre, and again wouldn't happen in this day and age, but. If you're me, it was a great opportunity to figure a lot of stuff out.
Yeah, for sure. And you had that great experience at Marist. You graduate there in 91, and then you spent some time at East Stroudsburg. Was that a situation for you where after you graduated, you're kind of looking around? Did you want to stay there, or was it just any opportunity I can get my hands on being an assistant coach in a program, that's where I'm going to go?
So I'd actually had the opportunity at the end of my first semester of my senior year to be the head coach at Marist. My good friend Victor Van Karpels was going to step away, and they wanted me to be the head coach. And I just realized, how am I going to get better at this if I'm learning from myself? And I was looking for other opportunities, and it was rough because it was early August, and I didn't have a job. I was working camps all summer. I was out in Santa Barbara, got a couple of phone calls, and I did some phone interviews. Came back. I actually interviewed at Wagner. It was Wagner, a different shade of green. Yeah. When I came back, and they were about to start a program, I turned that opportunity down, and then the East Stroudsburg opportunity came around late. To work with Bob Sweeney, who was in our Coaches Association Hall of Fame, unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but Coach Sweeney won almost 500 matches on both the men's and women's side, was very well connected with the national teams, which actually helped me get some opportunities with the national teams later. So it was a great opportunity to, again, learn from somebody who'd been doing it a really long time and successfully, as opposed to try to figure out some things on my own.
And then a few of your next other stops, it was interesting because then it wasn't just women's too. Now you're coaching on the men's and women's side, getting a taste of both. Yep. One of them that I highlighted to you before this was when you were in Anchorage, Alaska. Yep. But in those other spots, those formative years for you, because you were probably one of the youngest coaches on the market at that time, right. How big were those stops for you?
Huge. So, again, I worked with Coach Sweeney. It was a great opportunity. I wasn't looking to leave East Stroudsburg. The Anchorage opportunity was, as I said to you previously, the job had been open a year before. I didn't get any looks at the assistant position. I just applied because it was a year later. I wanted to see what difference a year made. And I go through the whole process, and I end up taking the job, and it was just for the season. It was a part-time semester only. So I left East Stroudsburg, where I was also doing some graduate work on the side, and got to work with the woman who had played for our then women's national team coach, who had one of her former assistants was then one of his assistants on the national team. We were talking before, Coach Rosen, who's the head coach at Michigan right now, former Anchorage assistant. So she had developed some assistants who went on to some great things, and had played for Coach Liskevich, who was working with our, running our national team, and that's ultimately where I wanted to go. So that to me seemed like a good opportunity to learn from her and get in that network. And then I came back to East Stroudsburg, and again work with somebody who's won a lot of matches, and go on to Ferris State, work with Coach Hershinger, who again won, I think, 800 matches, wow. And taught me a lot. It was a great opportunity. And then roll on to Bowling Green, again, Coach Vandewally, probably, I think she might now be over 1,000 wins, I'm not sure. So I've been fortunate to work with some people who were pretty good at this. And again, I think one of the best decisions I made was not to take the head coaching position at age 21 and go say, hey, somebody out here can hopefully take me under their wing and mold me a little bit.
Yeah, so now you're taking bits and pieces of all these other coaches in your own now coaching style.
Yep, absolutely.
Which is a huge token of respect to them, but also huge for your development. Yep. During this time too, like you mentioned, you were with USA Volleyball, you had some great experiences with them. How was that being around them in the Olympics and all of that?
Yeah, so again, I never like to overstate what I did. So I basically did grunt work, intern type work over the ones 94 and 95. And in 94, I was out in San Diego for probably about 10 weeks. Okay. And you're in the gym every day. You're in the video. I was in the video room a lot. They give you different projects, different things to research. How do we, what do we do when we pass 2-point passes on first swing? And we did interesting studies. I had to watch matches where we had a camera, this is in 1994, above the net in the San Diego Sports Arena. Now you have that everywhere. And I was doing an analysis of block penetration. Like if you watch 4 matches where it's shot from directly above the net, you go a little, a little crazy. But got exposed to just some of the best minds in the game, and being able to to be able to sit in a video room and you're doing your project, and the staff comes in and they start working on something, and all of a sudden the head coach turns to you and says, hey, what do you think? And you're like, sorry, mate. Okay, again, you're a fly on the wall. You get to learn some good things, meet some really smart people. And again, they invited me back in '95 to do some work after they came back from World League, and then the interesting part was I got to work for the Atlanta Olympic broadcast in '96. So you get to see some of the elements. You've been watching these teams on video. You've been watching the U.S. teams train, and then we had some different teams come in: Canada, Brazil, Bulgaria, whoever, and then to see them in that crucible of the Olympics, was a neat little run up to that. It was kind of cool. And then I watched, I don't know, 40 odd Olympic matches in 16 days or whatever. It's kind of cool. Yeah.
So then fast forward 10 years now, in your coaching career, you get the opportunity to go back to your alma mater where things started for you and go back to Marist in 2006. How did that all come about for you to then go coach?
So I got out of coaching. I was out of coaching at that point, and Tim Murray, who's still the athletic director, they had a tough time filling the position. It had been open for a few months, and I just said, hey, if you need help vetting some names, be happy to help. Gave me some names. I called some people. And he had called me back, and I started to pull out my notes and went through some people. And then a day or two later, he calls me back, and he goes, hey, you interested in this job? Actually, my wife and I have been talking about that. It's because I had been out of coaching for a few years, and so it was not something I was looking to do. I was never, ever aspired to be a head coach. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed being an assistant. But when you get that chance, if you've been out of the game, and you haven't been a head coach, and all of a sudden a head coaching opportunity comes along, thought it was a neat opportunity. I thought it was something that would be good for our family, and my daughters got to grow up around some great role models, and having my daughter, my youngest daughter, play there now. Hey, the first time she made an overhand serve over the net, is at Marist and stuff like that. So it all came full circle. But the opportunity, it was not, hey, I'm looking to be a head coach. I was in the mortgage industry at the time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's crazy. So you spent 9 years there in Poughkeepsie, had some really great programs, 2-time regular season champs. You went to 3 MAAC Championship games. You're a 2-time Coach of the Year in your own right. When you look back at those years, how special are they for you?
It really isn't. And now that you mentioned, like yesterday, I got a text message from a former player who just got married, and I had called her the week, a couple days leading up to the wedding, and said, hey, just good luck, all that. And to get she had just sent me a photo of, all her bridesmaids and all her teammates. Most of the bridesmaids are her teammates, but just to see her with those kids, right. And again, to me, they're kids, and they are not, but. That's the stuff I love. Like, she sends me this photo of this whole group of people that came together because of that experience, and to this day are still tight. So that's the stuff I really, really enjoy. But to get back to Marist and be able to do it there, as a head coach, and build a program up that had kind of been struggling, was certainly special.
Yeah, and you had great years there, and then that took you to your next stop at the University of Akron. A program that you helped take in 2019 to their first postseason appearance in almost a decade, which was very credible for you. At that point in your coaching career, why did you feel like it was a good transition to go to the other MAAC, not our MAAC, but the other MAAC?
Yeah, and just the situation presented itself, and you deal with the situation you're in, and that was the opportunity to arrive here at Canisius was one that was in front of me, and. I like the league. Again, I certainly felt like I know the league and could be successful, so thought it was a good opportunity. Canisius has always been competitive in volleyball the last few years. In the spring COVID season, losing in the final. Last year losing in a semifinal to the eventual champion in 5. It's always been a competitive program, and just feeling like, okay, I can maybe be the guy to push it over the edge. Yeah.
Was that almost your selling point when you applied, and you had other opportunities to go to some other programs to do that?
A little bit. I mean, it's, again, the knowledge of the league, the ability or the proven ability, I guess, that I've taken something in this league that wasn't very successful when I took it over. I think the best finish Marist had before I arrived was 6th place. I never had a team that finished below 6th. We actually had a team, I think we finished 6th when we had no setter for the last 12 matches of the year because of injuries. That we were in the mix, we were better. Our recruiting certainly was significantly better. The caliber of kids we were bringing in academically and athletically were really good. And, I felt like that's a skill set that certainly I can bring here and hopefully move the needle enough to get over the top and just kind of get a ring thing here.
Yeah, no doubt. So I've been fortunate enough to call almost all of your home matches here so far this season, and I could realize very early on that you are a system-oriented guy.
Yes.
Now, in this program, for the seniors that are here, this is now their 3rd head coach that they are on with you. Entering this season, how did you approach that with those players, knowing that it was going to be a different philosophy for them?
I think, my approach was, hey, we're both in a tough situation. You didn't ask for this. I'm not trying to change your whole life, but you're about to go through change again. It's nobody's fault. Can we embrace it to the best of our abilities so that there's faith is a blind trust or belief in something unseen. Like, you have to believe that I can do this at this institution, in this conference, because I have a proven track record, to your point before, of, hey, we've won some things at Marist. Did we win the conference tournament? No, unfortunately, we lost in 3 finals. But I think I can get there. I'm confident in my abilities to do that. You're going to have to trust that. And trust is a tough thing. And again, to your point, I'm the 3rd person in front of them. Like, you're just the next person at that point. I get it. Right. I think slowly the relationship evolves over time. And it's literally, I've been in the gym with them since August 9th or something. It's been 90 days. I didn't have a whole spring with them to get to know them, to get systems put in. It was kind of like, here we go, turn the treadmill on 10 and let's go. It's a lot about their belief in, hey, okay, we got to change again and follow this guy and hope he's right.
And it seems like they've completely bought in. You look at your record right now, you're 12-13 in conference. Like you said, you're right around the 4-5 spot. We'll see where things will end up with that. But that's also better than where they were a season ago. And again, with all of this change, that kind of shows that they bought into your system.
I guess that's, and again, I didn't know our record was 12-13, so that was educational. Because again, I'm looking at things where we have this safety net of the MAAC tournament. Everybody goes this year. Do I want to win matches? Absolutely. But we know we're going. Right. We know we have a seat at the table. What seat are you going to be? That's the X factor. That I'm willing to, sacrifice some things, to your point, to be good in our systems. And if it costs us right now, fine. But can we be good for 3 days next week in Orlando? And that's kind of been my thing the whole year, is like, hey, we can be wrong here. We're in a growing phase. We're changing systems. We're changing nomenclature. Everything's different for these kids, and I get it. It's not easy. But to your point, as every day goes by, I think we're getting better at it. So can we be good for 3 days in Orlando? We'll find out.
And even collectively, if you look at the season as a whole, started 2-1 in the Purdue-Fort Wayne tournament, then go on a little bit of a losing skid, but then immediately you win 7 of 8 of your next matches after that. So you could see the incremental process throughout and just buying into the system over that time.
And even in the losses, after that first weekend, we had a rough start. First match of the year, we didn't play great volleyball, and I think we played a better team that night in Fort Wayne, and came out and really gave it to them in the first set. I think we hung a 14 on them or something in front of their home crowd in their home opener. Went on to win the match. Win the next day, and to your point, like, okay, now we're 2-1. And then I think we saw some better teams along the way after that. But again, I want to win the match, but are we doing things the way we're trying to do? If we train this on Tuesday, can we do this on match day? And that was really the big thing for me. And, there was a lot of frustration for me, and there still is some days in practice. Like, I remember the Youngstown match at home. It wasn't that our level of play wasn't great, but we were, again, not doing the things within our system that we had trained to do. So my frustration level, unfortunately, got pretty high pretty quickly, and I had to kind of rein it back in. Actually, the next day, I took 2 pieces of athletic tape and put like a plus sign on the scorer's table, just to remind myself, like, hey, I got to be positive here. Like, again, they're going through change. Right. It's the 3rd week of the season. My frustration has to be kept in check, because they're doing the best they can with the situation they're given, and I just need time. And I think in the moment when somebody's keeping score, and that, again, the crucible gets a little warmer, I forgot about that in that day and started to realize as the match went on, okay, like, we're in the deep end of the pool, but I got to roll it back a little bit.
I'm interested to hear your philosophy in terms of non-conference schedule as well. I know some coaches, they see that as an opportunity. We're going to play the best of the best. Doesn't matter the record, but it's going to make us better when we get into conference. Right. What's your relationship with
that?
A
couple things. I mean, the schedule we had, I inherited for the most part, other than I think I helped put that third weekend when we co-hosted with Buffalo. I think I helped bring one team into the fold there, but honestly, I don't tend to be one of those guys going like, hey, let's go to the deep end of the pool. Let's play the best and the biggest and all that, because I think part of the problem in our game is the net is the line of scrimmage. So if you said, okay, pick Moorhead State football goes and plays USC. What the line of scrimmage, right? It's a physical. Like these guys are going to run those guys over when it's the USC defense going against that offensive line, and then vice versa when they're on offense. The net's our line of scrimmage. So if you're hitting a ball here and we're blocking here, there's some things we can't solve there. Right. And we're not going to see that in our league. One of my things back at Marist was, hey, you want to pick a Power 5 school of your choice, go win the conference. We'll get that opportunity. I honestly, my biggest thing in non-conference scheduling is, can we build confidence? Can we get some wins going? Because again, I can talk about process, but can they produce results? Us being really good in our system on Wednesday versus beating somebody on Saturday, the win on Saturday has way more value than, even though I think Wednesday was really good. So I like to look for opportunities where, hey, can we have some teams that are a little bit better than us, maybe some teams right at our weight class, and see what we can do. I try not to go, again, to the level where the physicality is just going to be, a complete and utter mismatch. The other thing I like to do in non-conference is, can we get kids back towards home? I never promise that, but can we get somebody to go play, within a half hour of their house? Because I think that's a special opportunity for kids. Yeah,
for sure. And now we translate into conference play, and that's where things started to really gel for you guys. Getting closer, there was more, familiarity, I guess you can say, between you and the players and what they were going to expect. And then that's when players like Ella Bork and Ella Lucia and Bree Long, now they're starting to rack up all of these awards that I know we've talked about, that, that doesn't really matter until the end and when you are hopefully having a ring on your finger. Right. But what has having so many great players like that on full display in conference and really propel you guys to be one of those upper echelon teams?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, again, when you look at where we're sitting kind of dead in the middle of the conference. But when you look at the awards and, especially Ella Bork in particular, death, taxes, and Ella's the Rookie of the Week. You look at the list of awards and realize, geez, we're pretty dominant there. It's great. Again, you have to have the horses in the stable, and we have the horses. And again, to your point, like, can we put it all together? Can the system work? Can we work within the system for 3 days in Orlando is still to be determined. But, so again, we have the pieces. We have, I did not come into a situation where the cupboard is bare. I think the other interesting thing is, and I don't think the group remembers this, because they're like, hey, we were in a final in the spring of 21. Hey, we were in the semifinals last year. Those are all true things. But also 54% of the point scoring from last year graduated. That's an obscenely high amount of point scoring. Your starting setter graduated. Hey, we're really fortunate. Ella Bork, chose Canisius, and she's done a great job. So you're stable in the setting position, but you lose 54% of your point scoring, and we're still sitting where we're at. I think to me, that's been fairly impressive, because you don't lose that amount of point scoring and not fall all the way down to the bottom of the ladder.
And then I think that just goes to show you now building your program from this point in time, like, what is going to be the ceiling for this now? If in year one you guys are already having this success, I feel like it could almost be a dynamic again of like your Marist situation. Where,
that's the idea.
Yeah, right? Is that kind of the blueprint, I guess you can say?
Right, that's the idea. And again, the thing that's exciting for me is, we're going to lose some pieces to graduation, but I enjoy the recruiting part, and can we bring in, pieces that are going to elevate our program, that are a little bit more athletic or have a higher volleyball IQ or bring this skill set and that skill set that we're lacking right now. That's the exciting piece to me, is that I think, I was fortunate that I was able to move the needle at Marist pretty quickly with recruiting. And one of the things, honestly, was the very first year, I had 6 seniors. So we had 6 kids graduate. Now it's a fire drill. I had to bring in 7 kids. And we started 4 of them as freshmen, and a 5th one played a lot. But 4 years later, they're in a final. And they were able to grow and develop with us. But bringing those pieces in, that's the part I'm looking forward to. It's hey, if we're doing a good job right now with kids learning and buying into the system, what's going to happen when I bring in some pieces that maybe fit a little bit better? Because again, it's fine we're playing the cards we have, but you have players here who are all doing a good job, but have been recruited by 2 different coaches who maybe do things differently than I do. And that's fine. Great. We'll play the cards we have, but when I get to choose the cards, it gets a little bit more interesting for me.
Yeah, for sure. And that is very exciting, but we will focus on now this weekend before this last regular season matches for you. Playing Siena is obviously big, but the last match of the year is not just special because it's senior day, but it's also, like you mentioned, your daughter plays on Marist, the team that you used to coach. She's in her sophomore season now. You did play her once already this year, but now it's here at home, your new home.
Yep.
What are some of the emotions for that for you?
It'll be easier, I think, being here. Again, I was a Marist graduate, so you go back to Poughkeepsie and it's, hey, that's where I was an undergrad. That's where I played. This is where I coached as an undergraduate. This is where I coached, my first head coaching position. You've got friends and family, former teammates, roommates, housemates, coming out. And there was a lot for me to manage, which was fine. It was great to see people. I walked to the wrong bench after telling myself, make sure I don't go over there. I still did that because you fall into habits, but I think it'll be easier being here and not having that distraction of, we were in serve and pass and other coaches are coming through because they see I'm on the floor, that, Marist coaches are coming in and say hi. And again, great to see people, but it'll be a little bit easier to manage some of that. And then I'm just excited to see my daughter. I haven't seen her in a month, so that's the most exciting part. The competition part was actually the easier part for me, which I thought it would be. Once I'm in the middle of doing what I'm doing, I'm in that mode, and it wasn't so much about, hey, that's my daughter over there. There was a couple of funny moments. There was one rally where she made 2 really nice digs back to back in the same rally, and she didn't see it. I walked up after the rally ended. I walked up to the 10-foot line and kind of was like, really? And then I was trying to catch her attention, but she's smart enough to be focused on what she's doing. And then there was another funny moment where she picked up, Ella Bork had dumped the ball to the left back corner, and she got over there and picked it up. And the way their system works, she's supposed to be a little bit further to the right than she was. And I talked to her after. I said, hey, when Ella threw that ball to the corner, were you in base or did you cheat? She goes, oh, I made an executive decision. And so she had changed her base. Yeah, so she knows a little bit of volleyball. So, but so there were some little moments like that. But once it got going, it was about what are we trying to do. And it's really funny actually now when I'm doing scout, whether it's scouting Marist or if they happen to be on the other side of the net, there's these moments. This kid will make a dig. I'm like, oh, that's my kid. Because you're just doing what you do, and then I realize, oh, that's my daughter. It's kind of awkward.
What's the dynamic in the household as well? Your wife, your other daughter, who's rooting for who? Are they?
I told them to root. I told them to root for her because she gets to do. She only gets to do this for 4 years, and I'm fortunate that I've done this for more than 4 years. I think they're just rooting for both of us to have a good day, and but if they're rooting for her to win, that's fine.
Yeah.
Again, she only gets to do this for 4 years. I mean, at this point, there is a scoreboard probably, at home it's 1 for Dad right now, 0 for her. And, she's going to see this and go, okay, we're going to try to change that. But I think it'll be fun, not only after the season, but in years to come after the whole experience is kind of wrapped up for her.
For sure. And you also obviously are a girl dad. You have 2 daughters. Growing up in a sport where it is predominantly you've coached women in your life, with it being the 50-year anniversary of Title IX, what does that mean for you, the dynamic of, again, having 2 girls that play that sport, but also to coach a sport when you're a male and you're coaching the females?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, and I grew up, Title IX, 1972. I'm a little bit older than that, but I got to see, like, for example, my sisters be the beneficiaries of some opportunities that maybe weren't available to kids, a little bit older than them. So I think that, being around when, hey, girls club at sports or whatever, at junior high and high school age was really just starting to get up and running was kind of interesting when you look back on it. I'm fortunate and proud that I've been able to coach, women in college women's athletics for a really long time and see growth and development, for all women's sports and the opportunities. Because again, like I said, my kids got to grow up around some really great role models, some kids who were just great students, great athletes, great people, and all those things that athletics brings together. That's the part I enjoy. And like I said before, like again, when I get a photo of a bunch of former players together at a wedding, or they get together once a year and they send me photos of them in New York City or whatever, like, to me that's special. And those are the opportunities that Title IX affords them to have this experience for 4 years and then to take it into their professional lives, to take it into lifelong relationships. Like again, there's nothing better than a wedding photo where all the bridesmaids are their teammates. And I say to the kids every year in our first meeting, like, hey, look around this room. These are the people who are going to be in your wedding. These are the people who are going to be the godmother to your children. You don't know that now, but I'm telling you that's what's going to happen. And then the experiences they have, hopefully because of athletics that Title IX has afforded, that allow them to develop leadership skills that they can hopefully carry on into a professional life. We're pretty fortunate to do what we do for a living.
And you hopefully have another big moment coming up, being in the tournament. So we're recording this on Thursday.
Okay.
You have your 2 matches. Monday, you might have a little practice, see how the weekend goes. Tuesday, you're off to Florida for the MAAC tournament where, like you mentioned, everybody makes it. We'll see what happens. The cards are dealt. We'll see what the seeding is. What does this team have to get Canisius their first ever MAAC championship?
I think what we have, and that we're still trying to realize we have it, is we have the ability to break open a match at any given moment. And sometimes I don't think we realize that we're in control of that moment. I think this past weekend, for example, we win the first set on the road at Ryder, 25-10. We win the second set, I think 25-22. We lose the third, and we're sitting in the fourth set now down 18-10. And I have a lot of cliches, things that are kind of broken record kind of stuff. Like, we're in a timeout at 18-10. I'm like, we can go back to the end line and we can break this match open. And right now, this is our chance. And one of my other broken record things is we're up 2-1. They can't win the match right now. Only we can win the match. Can we take advantage of that opportunity? And all of a sudden, we score 10 of the next 11. Again, and I said this at points, the second and third set, which again, we won one and lost one. Like, hey, we hung a 10 on them in the first set. They didn't go into the other gym, practice something, come back out and get better at it. Like, go be us. I think being us is enough most of the time. We talk about bandwidth. This is the best we can play. This is the worst we can play. Hey, you're not going to play at 100% capacity. Can we find that, hey, we're going to operate 92 to 85%, and how long can we do that? How long can we do that? I think that's where we're starting to get a little bit better. And if every now and again we dip down, again, like we did the other day against Ryder, all of a sudden go on a run. We're a pretty good serving team. We can make you uncomfortable. And at that point, it makes life easier, block and defense. If we can create some better defending opportunities and turn something over offensively in transition, we'll be okay. I think if we can serve at a higher level, that's always, that travels. To me, that's what drives the bus. And I think we can be better at that. But I think having that confidence of going like, okay, we can do this if we're in a tough spot. And that's what I talked about after the match. Like, we've done this a couple of different times where, hey, we're down, and all of a sudden, boom, we just come rolling back. And to know that if you're in a hole, we can get out of it. Now we have to figure out how to not get in the hole, maybe. Right now we're sitting off the top of my head, I believe we're 8-15 in sets decided by 2 points. You make that 9-14 and you do that in a fourth set, maybe you're not in a fifth set that you maybe go on to lose. So timing's part of it. I like the fact that we're involved in a lot of tight sets, but we certainly got to be better. And part of it is, again, can we not put ourselves in that situation? Again, we went, the win against Ryder in the fourth set. I don't even know what it ended up being, 27-25, 28-26. We had multiple match point opportunities. I think starting at 24-22, you could win that by 3. You don't have to. You don't have to go deuce the whole way.
Yeah. So we will keep our eye on that and see how the tournament goes. But I've ended every episode with coaches with this question. I know you might be having some recruits coming this weekend, so this could be a trial run for you.
Okay.
But say I'm a recruit, and with your new program, you're here in year 1, you get to bring in your new talent. What is the selling point to try to get me to come to Canisius?
I think, to me, the selling point is you have to believe that Canisius is the springboard to your future. Is it going to get you where you want to go in life, professionally, and so on? Unfortunately, you're looking at a sport where we have roughly in any given year about 300 U.S. passported women play professionally. And I'm talking across the globe. Because there's the professional league in this country right now that Athletes Unlimited is running is about 45 athletes, something like that. Most of the, probably about 10% of the women who are playing professionally abroad are playing in England, which is really a university system where you're basically in grad school. But it's their highest league, the Super 8, so it's considered professional. So there's not a lot of opportunities. So let's assume you're not going to be one of those 0.001 people that are going to make a living playing professional volleyball. Can Canisius be the springboard for your future? Because at some point, as much as we enjoy volleyball, this is not going to pay the bills. And if you can pay your bills, awesome. I've had a few different players who've played professionally a little bit, great, but you can't bank on that. Can we get you to where you want to go? To me, that's got to be the big question. You have to feel like, yep, I met these people, I saw these facilities. I think the whole package together gets me where I want to go in life.
So that's going to do it for this episode of the Griffin Report podcast. Again, make sure to watch the volleyball team as they will go down to the ESPN Wide World of Sports for the upcoming MAAC tournament. Until next time, I'm Griffin Della Penna, and as always, go Griffs.